Have you ever been asked to do something you believed to be outrageously impossible? I once worked for a guy who was the very definition of a yes man. And his desire to please those in authority, and perhaps a fervent passion to ensure that we were always bathed in the light of political favor. He just couldn't say no to anything. The office staff would stand outside his office and hold our collective breath whenever we knew he was on the phone with his boss. We could hear his reassurances. Sure, we can do that. Of course we can do that. And at the end of the conversation, he would hang up the phone and wonder aloud, now, how in the world are we going to do that? And off we would go. Off we would go on another merry adventure, trying to scramble resources and support for whatever it is he promised we would do. I never could decide if he did this because his yeses were rungs on the ladder of his upward mobility, or if he truly believed we were that good. The saving grace was that in the military, I knew the situation was temporary. One of us was bound to get transferred before too long. So I have a special thing I can commiserate with Philip as he faced what most of us would have also considered to be an impossible demand. When Jesus turns to him, right, and says, so where are we going to buy bread for all these people? Most of us would probably go to the same place mentally that Philip went. Our first inclination, when faced with something we believe is impossible, is to begin listing all the things we need that we don't have. And so when we do that, we convince ourselves it can't be done. The first place Philip's mind went to was the money, right? Even if they had 6 months' worth of wages, they wouldn't have had enough to feed all these people. He hadn't even gotten to logistics and distribution, right? Where would they buy this quantity of bread? How would they bring it back to where it was needed? And what would be the best way to make sure everybody got a fair share? I could imagine his mind reeling from questions like these. I mean, how does one possibly come up with a good plan in a time-sensitive situation? But there is a critical piece to this story that we can't overlook, and it's this. Jesus already knew what he was going to do. And he asked the question because it says he wanted to test Philip. Now, honestly, that really irritates me. What in the world is that all about? What is he testing? Didn't Philip leave everything he had to follow Jesus and go around with him as he performed all that Jesus stuff, the healings and the teachings and the miracles and the like? So what was it Jesus was testing? His loyalty, his obedience, his dedication? I don't think it was any of those things. I think that maybe what Jesus was testing was something much deeper. Maybe what Jesus really wanted to know was how willing Philip was to step off the ledge where reason and knowledge and certainty end, and my friends, where faith begins. Jesus wanted to see if Philip realized that he wasn't going it alone, but that God was also present and active, and that Jesus was God incarnate. In our desire to be faithful followers of Jesus, we too can make this mistake of believing we must rely solely on our own resources, our own information, reason, logic, and understanding. And when we begin to weigh in on some seemingly impossible issues, hunger, poverty, oppression of women and children, immigration, the environment, healthcare, the state of our country, sometimes our perception is that even our best will result in only a negligible change in the status quo. So our default question becomes, what could we possibly do that will make any difference? And we run the risk of becoming discouraged to the point of not doing anything. And I'm going to say this because I know that you all are getting an interim rector just a few days from now, right? In church speak, a close first cousin of this kind of thinking is, we tried that once and it didn't work. I'm just saying, keep it in mind. The lesson Jesus was trying to teach Philip and us is that we are not flying solo here. Instead of asking what we can do in a given situation, the question we ought to be asking is, what can God do in this situation using whatever resources we have to bring? How quickly we default to the Philip in ourselves instead of embracing that boy who is also a witness to what is going on and who probably spoke, but it won't say so in the Bible. He says to those standing there, here, I have 5 loaves and 2 fish. Are you able to do anything with these, Jesus? What can you do? Often in the face of difficulties that seem insurmountable, you see, we focus on what we don't have instead of what we do have to offer to God's solution. So I ask you in the coming days and as you go through your interim to think about this. Good people of St. John's, what are your loaves and fishes? What can you offer to God to make a difference in the world, in this congregation, and for and with each other? Is it money? Is it time? A special skill or gift like teaching or encouragement? Is it prayer? Is it the gift of organization or perseverance or peacemaking? Whatever your gifts are, just put them in the basket and offer them up, because God will make do and will make a way where there seems to be no way. For one thing we are told is that whatever it is we are facing, Jesus already has a plan. It has been said that the end of human knowledge is the beginning of love's knowledge, and that is enough to feed a multitude with much left over. No matter how insignificant we think our contribution may be, Jesus will take whatever loaves and fish we can offer, bless them, and make do in a way that is incredible, transformative, and maybe even a little outrageous. And they will, by God's doing, also be enough. Amen.